The wind was a knife, sharp and cold, cutting through the Montana territory. At a desolate crossroads, a woman stood alone. Her name was Ruth Winslow. Her boots were splitting, her shawl was more holes than wool, and in her arms she held a silent, swaddled baby, a child she'd named Hope, though the word felt like a memory from a forgotten life. She had been walking since dawn. She knew, with a certainty as cold as the air, that she would not survive the night. The sound of hoofbeats broke the silence. A rider emerged from the east, a tall, broad-shouldered man named Grant McCoy. He was a man of substance, a timberman who owned mills, but he wore his wealth as lightly as his worn ranch coat. He pulled his horse to a stop, his gaze taking in the desperate scene. Ruth didn't beg. She had lost the strength for it. She simply stated the truth that went deeper than geography. I'm lost. Grant McCoy studied her. The exhaustion, the dignity fighting a losing battle with shame, the fierce way she held her child. He saw a reflection of his own loneliness. His response was immediate and unadorned by pity. Then follow me home. I can't pay you, Ruth whispered, her voice raw. Didn't ask you to, he replied. He helped her onto his horse, settling her and the baby in front of him. As they rode, the first snowflakes began to fall, a promise of the coming storm. The blizzard hit with sudden, blinding fury. Grant knew they wouldn't make it to his ranch. He turned his horse toward a memory, an old, abandoned line shack where he and his late wife, Anna, had once taken shelter. It was a humble place, dirt floor, cobwebs, a pile of old furs. But the fireplace was sound. Inside, as Grant built a life-giving fire, Ruth tended to her baby. He shared his jerky and hardtack, and they ate in the silence of shared survival. Ruth noticed a well-worn Bible among his gear. "You read?" she asked. "My wife did," Grant said, poking the fire. "I listened. That was enough." The past tense hung in the air, a story of its own. Ruth understood that some doors were not to be opened. "Why would you help someone you don't know?" she finally asked. Grant looked into the flames. "Maybe because I don't know you. Out here, you can't rope a steer from the porch. You've got to get in the dirt." That night, as the storm raged outside, warmth, human and heartfelt, took root inside the shack for the first time in years. At dawn, they rode to Grant's cabin. It was neat and solid, but it felt lonely. Inside, the ghost of his past was palpable. 2 plates on a shelf, one dusty from disuse, a woman's shawl hanging like a relic. "Stay till spring," Grant said, his voice firm but kind. "I'll pay wages for housekeeping, no questions asked." But Ruth felt he deserved the truth. "You should know what you're offering shelter to." She straightened her spine and told him of her husband's death in the mines, the cruel rumors that she brought bad luck, the months of walking and searching with her newborn. Grant listened, then offered his own truth in return. "I built an empire in timber," he said, "but I wasn't here when my Anna went into labor. She and the baby didn't make it. I saved everyone's livelihood, but couldn't save her." In the space between their grief, they recognized a shared understanding. "The town will come," Ruth whispered. "When they see me here, they'll talk." "Let them," Grant said, his jaw set. "I stopped caring what people think when the only one who mattered stopped breathing." It was not charity he was offering, but a pact of mutual rescue. "I'll stay," Ruth said. Winter settled into a gentle routine. Ruth cooked and cleaned. Grant chopped wood and tended traps. The cabin filled with the sounds of life, humming, footsteps, and Hope's happy gurgles. One evening, Grant sketched a design for a cradle. "Hope's outgrowing that basket," he explained. Tears pricked Ruth's eyes. A cradle meant permanence. It meant he believed they would still be there in the spring. "I want to help build it," she said. "I want to learn not to be afraid of tomorrow." So he taught her. In the woodshed, their breath misting in the cold, he showed her how to hold a plane, his calloused hands guiding hers. It was the first deliberate touch beyond necessity, and for Ruth it felt like safety. But the outside world would not be kept at bay. Reverend Silas, a man of sharp features and sharper judgment, rode by one day. His eyes narrowed when he saw Ruth. "Mrs. Winslow," he said, his tone implying a scandal. "Didn't expect to find you here." After he left, Ruth felt a familiar dread. He'll talk. Grant swung his axe, splitting a log with finality. Let him. A man who preaches grace but can't show it isn't worth fearing. The true test came not from gossip, but from crisis. Hope developed a raging fever that no poultice or prayer could break. "I'm going to town for medicine," Grant declared at dawn, with a new storm threatening. "It's 20 below. You could die out there," Ruth cried. He cupped her face, his gaze steady. "And if I don't go, she might. That's not a choice." He rode into the killing cold. Ruth waited, her fear a living thing. Hours later, near midnight, he stumbled back through the door, his face gray, his hands frostbitten, but clutching a small bottle of medicine. "Why would you risk this?" she wept, tending to his frozen hands. "For us," he chattered through numb lips. "Because you're not lost anymore, Ruth. And the truth is, neither am I."
With the thaw came the judgment. 5 men rode up to the cabin, the sheriff, the preacher, and Warren Kent, a banker who had long coveted Grant's land. "McCoy," Kent said, his smile sharp, "we've heard troubling rumors about this woman. Ruin follows her. Do the right thing, marry her proper, or send her away." Under the weight of their collective judgment, Grant faltered. The old fear of whispers and shame silenced him. Seeing his struggle, Ruth spoke with quiet dignity. "I'll leave. I won't be your burden." She gathered her things and walked into the woods, her heart breaking. Grant watched her go, paralyzed, believing the cowardly part of himself that said this was easier. But as he sat in the suddenly silent cabin, he saw the 2 plates, the unfinished cradle, and Anna's shawl, which now smelled of Ruth's herbs and hope. He remembered his wife's last words, "Don't let fear make you small." He had failed her then. He would not fail Ruth now. He found Ruth nearly frozen, huddled under a tree with hope. He carried them home, built up the fire, and fell to his knees beside her. "I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "I was a coward. I let them make me small." He took her hand. "Ruth Winslow, marry me. Not because of them, but because you're the first thing that's felt like living since Anna died. Because I choose you." Ruth didn't answer with words. She simply reached for his bandaged hand, the hand he had frozen for them, and held it. They rode to town together, a united front. In the crowded square, Grant faced them all, his voice steady. "This woman is my intended wife," he declared. "Any man who speaks against her speaks against me." He held up Anna's Bible and read, haltingly but with conviction, the words of Ruth. "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people." One by one, the townspeople, led by a sharp-tongued but kind widow named Martha, showed their support. The tide of judgment turned, not with a fight, but with a choice to offer grace. Spring arrived in full, painting the world in green and wildflowers. Grant and Ruth were married on their porch, hope giggling through the vows. The cabin was no longer a monument to loss, but a home built log by log, choice by choice. That evening, they sat in 2 rocking chairs, watching their daughter play. Ruth's hand found Grant's, their fingers interlacing. "You know the way home now, Ruth," he said softly. She smiled, a true, deep smile that reached her eyes. "I'm already there."
They had both been lost, but in choosing each other, they had finally found their way, not to a place, but to a peace strong enough to weather any storm.